Welcome back everyone, this will be my new Guardians of the Galaxy 3 video all about Adam Warlock. Thankfully, Marvel finally confirmed what's going on with his character, so we'll break it all down. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in the future of Marvel Phase 4, because he's such a huge character. Obviously, he's going to continue past Guardians 3. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. It's going to get really crazy the rest of the year with a bunch of really cool stuff. Most of you probably saw the news yesterday that Will Poulter has officially been cast as Adam Warlock in the MCU for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and like I said, beyond that in other Marvel movies. Because he originally debuted in the Fantastic Four comics, I also expect there to be a connection between what's happening with him in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Marvel's new Fantastic Four movie. James Gunn himself confirmed the news with a funny post about how he always loves dunking on people and websites for fake scoops about his movies, and then just stops short like, "So I'll say welcome to the Guardians of the Galaxy family, Will Poulter. He's an amazing actor and a wonderful guy." The reason why he says "see you in a couple weeks" here is because they're actually starting to film the movie in a couple weeks. Finally starting to film the movie after years and years of delays. The funny thing is that he actually finished the script for this back in like 2018, I think, around Avengers Infinity War territory. But then he followed up with another reply to another comment just hyping up Will Poulter as being incredible. They actually said that they auditioned almost every major young male actor in Hollywood who was available for Adam Warlock, so if he beat out much bigger stars, he must have just blown James Gunn away with his performance. So I would trust in his judgment when it comes to casting, because James Gunn is pretty picky when it comes to casting, and he has done a great job of casting all of his other movies. Will Poulter, the actor, wasn't someone who was even on my radar, though, as Adam Warlock. Like, everybody had their fan casting for Adam Warlock because he was such a huge character, and we've known about him coming to the MCU for a long time. Most of you might remember the actor from Black Mirror Bandersnatch. He was also in Midsummer, which also starred our new Black Widow, Yelena Belova. Even if you haven't seen any of his recent stuff, which is actually pretty solid, some of you will at least remember him from a billion years ago as that kid from Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Obviously, he's grown up quite a bit since then. That was about 10 years ago that happened. But I'll explain what's going on with Adam Warlock's character, what this means, what's going on with him after Guardians 3, as well as what's going on with the Thor, Love and Thunder Guardians of the Galaxy crossover. Because the next place that most of the Guardians are showing up is at the beginning of Thor Love and Thunder, as we've seen from all the scenes they've released last year, and for the most part all of them have some minor costume upgrades. Obviously, big change for Thor because he's not Fat Thor anymore. Spent a lot of time since Avengers Endgame borrowing Star-Lord's Bowflex. And because there's that big Guardians crossover during Thor Love and Thunder, I believe on the other side of that, they'd also planned to have Thor show up in Guardians 3. At least the way that Vin Diesel said that they had originally planned things out. Because the funny thing is that originally, had Guardians 3 not been delayed, we would have watched that movie before we watched Thor Love and Thunder. So they kind of had to reverse the way that the crossovers worked with Thor and the Guardians. But Thor would probably just show up at the beginning of Guardians 3 for a short cameo scene, and then the Guardians go off to continue the mission that they started during that Avengers Endgame Ending scene to find the younger 2014 Gamora who took off. There was also a funny deleted scene of her taking off in Avengers Endgame 2 when everybody was bending the knee to Iron Man just to pay honor to him, because this version of Gamora had no idea who Iron Man was. So she was like, "Why are these people doing this? Peace, I'm out of here," and just kind of yeets out. But Adam Warlock, hell yeah, time to freak out. It's about time. Most of us saw the Easter egg for his cocoon in the Thor the Dark World post-credit scene with the Collector and assumed that they would be doing him eventually. Now, James Gunn obviously changed that just a little bit when he got to Guardians of the Galaxy 2's post-credit scene. To be fair, Ayesha even uttered the words Adam just to be extra clear as to what was happening in this scene. It's a minor change to his comic book origin, but the Sovereign all have the gold skin and the cocoon looks just like a mechanical version of his cocoon in the comics. So we just all held our breath, just waiting for them to announce Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and had it not been delayed, we actually would have watched that movie summer of 2020 last year. Adam Warlock is one of the most powerful characters in Marvel Comics. He's the keeper of the Soul Stone during the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet storyline. He was originally created to be kind of like this David Bowie Space Jesus type of figure. And because we have the Loki series now with the Kang Multiverse War, and the whole idea of the Marvel characters all having many variants of themselves in other universes, he's also got an evil persona called the Magus. So in the MCU, I guess you would call the Magus a variant of Adam Warlock. But at various points in the comics, he's been both a great ally to the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Avengers, the heroes, but also a villain to them through his Magus persona. He even straight up joined one of the later Guardians of the Galaxy rosters himself after the Annihilation Conquest storyline, and that was the storyline that served as the basis for the MCU Guardians roster. The one with Rocket, Groot, Peter Quill, Gamora, Drax, Mantis. So I know a lot of you are now also asking what's going to happen with the Guardians of the Galaxy team after Guardians 3, because James Gunn has been saying that this is the last Marvel movie with this particular roster of the team. So some of the characters will either die or straight up leave the team, and some will continue on. They could always wind up doing Guardians 4, but James Gunn said that it probably would not be him doing Guardians 4. It would be some other director coming in to take over the franchise. But just like his comic book origin story, Adam Warlock is being created as the perfect being to become the weapon of the Sovereign here in Ayesha. The minor change here is that in the comics, it was a group called the Enclave that created him to be their weapon, but same basic concept. And just like his comic book story, we're all kind of expecting him to rebel against his creators and eventually become an ally to the Guardians of the Galaxy and other Marvel characters that he would cross over with in future Marvel movies. Also, no coincidence, when he debuted in the comics, some of his earliest adventures were with Thor. It just so happens that we have a big Thor Guardians of the Galaxy crossover coming up, so funny how that works out. He didn't actually get the name Adam Warlock until he went back into the cocoon and was reborn anew. The High Evolutionary is the one that actually gave him that name and gave him the Soul Stone before the big Thanos Infinity Gauntlet saga. And speaking of the High Evolutionary, there have been a lot of theories that he's going to be one of the villains of Guardians 3, and that they'll just canonize him as the person who created Rocket Raccoon. There was a minor Easter egg for him in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. When they travel to Burhurt is an anagram of Herbert, as in Herbert Edgar Wyndham. He was a normal human before he became the High Evolutionary. James Gunn teased Ego the Living Planet using Easter eggs in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, foreshadowing that he'd be one of the villains of the second movie, which is why there's the theory that High Evolutionary could be one of the antagonists of Guardians 3. The only other minor change that I'm expecting is that there'll be some funny moment where someone gives him the Warlock part of his name. Like he'll come out of the cocoon already being called Adam because Ayesha already called him Adam, but who's the person who winds up giving him the Warlock part of his name? She's creating him for the express purpose of destroying the Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's just where the story picks up with him. The basic idea being that he finishes hatching out of the cocoon at the beginning of the movie, and the Guardians of the Galaxy will have just finished their mini crossover adventure with a newly buffed up Thor during Thor Love and Thunder with Gorr the God Butcher. So the Guardians will kind of be in recovery mode, licking their wounds metaphorically, and then they're hit bam with one of the most powerful new Marvel characters in the universe. But here's the thing with Adam Warlock flipping from good to evil in the comics. Some of you may have already seen this coming too, just kind of foreshadowed in the way some other Marvel characters' arcs have played out. He's created to be a perfect being, so his origin story plays out a lot like the Vision in the MCU. Ultron hatches Vision, like creates him in a cocoon, so to speak, kind of, is this perfect vessel for him. But instead, he winds up being born with this perfect body in half Ultron programming, half Jarvis programming, so he's a complete open book in terms of which way he could go, either good or evil. But because he's so fresh out of his cocoon, and because his intelligence is so vast, he takes the more philosophical approach to the Avengers, so I'm expecting a similar type of arc with Adam Warlock. If he's perfect, he would eventually come to the same conclusion. Therefore, he'd stop trying to kill the Guardians of the Galaxy, because as it stands, if he wanted, he'd be able to mow them down without blinking an eye. That's how powerful he is. It's the same thing with Vision during Avengers Infinity War. He has an Infinity Stone in his forehead. He could have destroyed the Avengers if he really wanted to. As we saw with the What If episodes with the version of Ultron who actually took Vision's body. But if you've been paying attention to all the stuff James Gunn has been saying about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the movie is actually really all about Nebula and Gamora's story. It's kind of the same arc from Guardians 2, only this time it's flipped. It's Nebula who's trying to save the more evil version of Gamora, as opposed to Gamora trying to save her sister. So their relationship is central to the story of the movie. Yes, Peter Quill does want to get her back because he's still in love with her, but really, she's not his Gamora. She's a totally different version of the character because she came from 2014, long before she ever met him. There's also all the stuff with Rocket and Groot's arc across the Marvel movies, and Groot finally growing himself back up to full adult status. Vin Diesel called him Alpha Groot, like the final boss form of Groot. So I'm assuming when they show up during Thor Love and Thunder, he'll still be the teenage version of Groot, and they'll save that transformation for some big moment in Guardians 3 where he becomes Alpha Groot. We won't actually get the first trailer for Guardians 3 till next year, but we'll get some Easter eggs in Thor Love and Thunder and some references to Guardians 3, maybe a post-credit scene teasing what's happening at the beginning of the movie. Like early theory, maybe Adam Warlock hatches out of his cocoon in one of the Thor Love and Thunder post-credit scenes. Post all your theories. Do you actually think that they'll save all the Adam Warlock stuff for the actual movie, or do you think they'll tease him in a Thor post-credit scene just to hype him up even more? So at least one of the post-credit scenes will probably be Guardians 3 related, because they are such a big part of Thor Love and Thunder. Everyone click here for that brand new Eternals trailer video and Easter eggs, and click here for my What If Episode 9 post-credit scene video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.